This video is going to be a little different from my usual. Normally I talk about camping or bushcraft, cooking or fly tying or historical reenactment, making stuff, things I enjoy doing. I keep my political views to things like Facebook. Here I don't usually do that, but we're at a moment in history where it's kind of getting important. My degree is in both biology and teaching, and so I feel it's incumbent upon me to put this explanatory video out for people who don't really know what do vaccines actually do and how do they work. There's a lot of misinformation being given out there right now, and to be honest, you need to be able to recognize that when you see it. And that's what this video is about. I'm only going to teach the most basic couple, three facts about vaccines and how they work. Because if you understand those very basic facts, there's a better than even chance that you'll recognize when someone's saying something to you that just is misinformation given out for their own personal political reasons, whatever those may be. So, fact number one, the vaccine does not create an invisible bubble around your body. The way a vaccine works is it doesn't prevent the virus or whatever pathogen it's designed to fight from entering into the body. That can still happen. What it does is it teaches the immune system to respond to that particular pathogen rapidly and efficiently and effectively, and in so doing, it eliminates the pathogen from the body sooner rather than later. If it works well enough, you become asymptomatic. That is to say, you don't show any signs or symptoms that you've been infected, even though you have been. And there are instances where some people with a compromised immune system, even with the vaccine, will develop some signs and symptoms. In a tiny number of cases, they could become quite ill indeed, even perhaps on very rare occasions so ill they need to go to hospital. But the hard reality is that because their immune system is working more effectively against the pathogen in question, they tend not to die. They tend not to be sick for very long. And that's only if they got bad enough to go to hospital in the first place. In most cases, again, they don't. Now, we can see this in the results of what's going on right now. If you look at the number of people in the population going to hospital with COVID-19, 97% have not been vaccinated. If you look at the number of people who are dying of COVID-19 who have been vaccinated, it's what, 1/10 of 1%? The other 99.9% of the people dying from COVID-19 have not been vaccinated. But yes, some people have, for one reason or another, a somewhat compromised immune system. It could be from a vitamin deficiency. It could be from a condition like type 2 diabetes. There's all kinds of reasons why your immune system might be slightly compromised, so that even with the vaccine, you might still show a few signs and symptoms. But overall, your immune system will still work so effectively that what signs and symptoms you present will be limited and unlikely to kill you. Standard COVID-19 with an unvaccinated population will kill 1 out of every 60 people. With the Delta variant, it's worse. Since this thing began here in Britain, more people have died from COVID-19 than died in the Blitz during World War II. And in the United States, the numbers are close to 2/3 people now. But it's preventable. Now, there are some people saying it's their right to refuse the vaccine. And in a handful of cases, there may be good medical reason for that. but that's going to be a very, very small proportion of the population. Over the overwhelming majority of people will have no negative side effects at all, or if they do, they'll be relatively trivial. If you have a genuine concern and think, oh, maybe I should go to my doctor and have an allergy test to see if I'm allergic to this before I take it, in most cases that's not going to be necessary, but if you really want to, go ahead and do that. But don't just assume that it will be bad for you, because the reality is there's a lot of people dying from COVID-19 and next to nobody dying from the vaccine. There is no causal link between a lot of the things that are being attributed to the vaccine and the vaccine itself. To say that some people who have been vaccinated have died of a blood clot, yes, that could sound scary. Until you look at the number of people who have died of blood clots who have received the vaccine. If you actually look at the numbers, you will find that in a population of that size, the number of people who have died from blood clots is less than you would expect. Certainly no more than you would expect. Should we say that it reduces your chance of dying of a blood clot if you've had the vaccine? I wouldn't go that far. I don't think there's enough evidence to suggest that. But you could say that if you're just going to superficially look at the numbers. So to suggest that anyone who dies of a blood clot who has had a vaccine, there is no evidence to support that. And scientific evidence is a real thing. We depend on it. The very fact that you're watching this video using scientific technology shows that you live in a world where science works. Airplanes fly. Cars go. This video is playing. Don't ignore science. And the overwhelming majority of scientists throughout the world who are basing their statements on actual data are telling you to take the vaccine. A little something about polio. Everybody takes the polio vaccine. That's why it's been eliminated. If the pathogen cannot survive long in the body, but might be able to pass on to someone else, as long as the someone else that it's being passed on to is also vaccinated, it won't last long and the pathogen will quickly die out. But if a significant proportion of the population refuses vaccination, then when the pathogen is passed on to those individuals, it has a big party in their body and produces large numbers of pathogens which are being breathed out into society. We can't really eliminate COVID-19 or the Delta variant unless pretty much everybody gets vaccinated. That's the reality. Now, once that has happened, this all goes away. But until that happens, there is still the possibility of new variants forming in the bodies of infected individuals. By not getting the vaccine, you're turning your body into a chemical war, more precisely, a biological warfare factory. And your body, it's almost as if it is trying to come up with a new variant that will neutralize the effectiveness of the vaccine. And then we're back to square one. So when people tell you the vaccines don't work because people can still get infected, yes, they can get affected, but that doesn't mean that the vaccine isn't working. The vaccine works by teaching your antibodies to respond, not by preventing the disease from getting into you in the first place. I suppose perhaps the best analogy to explain it, if you have raw recruits to a military turning up to basic training, and on day one they're just handed a weapon and told, go into the field and fight, they probably won't last very long. But when those recruits come to basic training, if they're actually given their training and taught how to be proper soldiers and how to use their weapons and how to use their judgment and so forth, then they will become effective soldiers and they will be effective against their enemies. That's what the vaccine does. It's like military training for your immune system. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful and informative. Seriously, if you agree with what you've just heard, and you should because it's all scientifically valid, and as I mentioned, we are all dependent on science, so why kick it in the teeth, right? Share this. I know I always say to share my videos, but this one really matters. Share this. You should forgive the pun. Make it go viral. If you have something to say, feel free to comment. And if you really like it, consider liking and subscribing. Hit the bell icon, be alerted about the next video. I promise you, there won't be many like this. They're usually, well, from my perspective, a bit more interesting. But I feel morally obligated, since I am a teacher and since I have got a degree in biology, to explain this on at least a basic level, because I think a lot of people who have never been taught anything about this can be forgiven for being misled. But that just gives those of us who have the knowledge a moral obligation to speak out. Anyway, I hope to see you on the next one. You have a good one.